is AM 1600 KDAK Carrington and FM 100.1 K261EW Carrington. Locally owned and operated by I3G Media.
It's time to find out what's going on in Carrington Cardinals athletics on the Carrington Coaches Show on KDAK The Cardinal and the KDAK The Cardinal YouTube page. The Carrington Coaches Show takes you behind the scenes of all things Cardinal athletics. Now, live from the Prairie Inn in Carrington, here is BJ Walters.
And good evening, everybody, and welcome to the 2024 Coaches Show. And we are not live at the Prairie Inn Restaurant and Bakery tonight. We are live at Carrington High School tonight. And again, I'm Kyle Hewitt for I3G Media here on AM 1600 KDAK. The Cardinal tonight is one of the Cardinal coaches. He's a volunteer coach, and he's been with the program for many years. Justin Jensen joining us here tonight. And Justin, first of all, thanks for joining us. And we're going to just kick things off right away. And we'll start talking about this past weekend, the L. Larson Invitational Tournament. Had a couple of duels on Friday night. Lost a tight one to Minot, 34-33, and then knocked off Napoleon. Anything unusual or unexpected during those duels?
The Minot one was a little unexpected. We thought we could compete with that in that duel with Minot, but coming as close as we did with them, it was kind of a shock and a surprise to us. Just for the fact of we're young, we've had a lot of injuries, and it was a very good duel in an outright sense of that we wrestled a very good match with those guys, which is awesome because we love wrestling Minot. They like wrestling us, and it was good to have a nice close duel like that.
And then you look at the Napoleon duel after that. 8 powers over the last 2.5. Obviously, both teams have been a little bit down for their standards over the last several years, but in general, Carrington ended up, I'm not sure what the exact score was, about a 10-point win, but I'm guessing a few forfeits in that one.
Yeah, both teams had a lot of opens in that one, and that's the unfortunate thing with some of the Class B wrestling these days is that we have too many open weight classes. And they did reduce the weight classes. In my eyes, I wish they would have went to 11. Would have made it a lot more competitive, but convincing some powers that be is kind of hard these days. But it was it's nice to wrestle Napoleon. They always have good kids, so you're always going to get good matches. They don't duck away from us. I didn't get to see that because I was actually reffing the girls portion of the tournament, so I didn't get to see any of those matches.
Turned it over the next day on Saturday, starting at 10 o'clock with the individual. We ended up with 15 teams or so in this place. Had a couple of guys make the finals, and Drew Carr at 120, 140 or 52 pounds was a little bit short. And had several other guys place on Saturday, including, I want to make sure, Mason Cook, I believe, finished in 5th place, also, or 7th
place, yep.
And at 127, we had a couple of guys wrestling varsity. Jackson Wilson finished in 7th place, and also at 127 was Callan Walsky, who finished in 5th place. Max Chubo Teriano at 160 pounds finished in 3rd place, I believe. 100, I know I'm missing one or two here possibly as well.
I wrote them all down for us before I came.
There you go.
This guy ended up getting 3rd at 114. You were right, Mason did get 5th at one. I was looking at a 7th grade year, but Mason did get 5th at 107. And then let's see, Crew Walsky, he didn't wrestle in the varsity division at 139, but he did wrestle in the junior high division. I got 1st in there. Nick Garber, like you said, got 2nd. He lost to Hildry from Velva, which was a great match. We had an opportunity to win that one, but unfortunately came away with the loss. But
just not speculating, but just talking about that match for Nick Garber. Nick wrestled Hildry from Velva. Hildry won state 2 years ago, even last year in the finals. I believe 3-1 the final. And I talked with you here today, Justin, about that match, and when that match started, I was kind of like, if Nick can just be competitive in this match, and well, I'll tell you what, he was more than competitive, and when that match ended in overtime, it went to sudden victory overtime where back. Track Wrestling showed it as a 4-point or a 3-point win, so they didn't give him the fall on track. So But Nick for 3 full periods, and that was a heck of a match.
Oh, absolutely. I told Nick yesterday in practice, first period takedown on Hildry was one of the best takedowns I've seen in high school wrestling.
Data directly from your combine, it instantly generates variable rate fertility map data directly from your combine. It instantly generates variable rate fertility maps based on your nutritional goals. Whether it's building soil, balancing nutrition, or maintaining fertility. And with full integration with John Deere Operations Center, Verify can send recommendations directly to application equipment, no matter the color. For more information on Verify, talk to your hefty agronomist and keep your farm moving.
And once again, welcome back here to Carrington High School and the 2024 Coaches Show. And again, I'm Kyle Hewitt for AM 1600 KDAK, the Cardinal, NewsDakota.com, and locally on FM 100.1. Joining us now is head girls wrestling coach Mark Panzerdick. And Mark, a good weekend of girls wrestling going back to Friday night in the L. Larson tournament. Girls finished in 6th place, had several placers, and I think they said 250 some odd girls wrestling here, so a very busy day on Friday.
Yeah, we, I think we started about 15 minutes late because we had quite a few scratches, but we had about 283 kids entered, and I think we finished with 255 kids that actually wrestled on 5 mats. Started a little bit after 1:15, and I think we maybe got done about 20 after 8, somewhere around there. So we're talking about 7 hours. For 255 kids, that I think it went really well. So
I did my initial track wrestling fumbling and bumbling for the first few minutes, and that took me a little while. Once I got all acclimated back with track wrestling, then everything was a lot smoother, and it got a lot smoother on Saturday with the boys. But that first few minutes, I was my head was spinning.
Well, not only that, but we had a varsity side, but we also had a JV side, so it was split about 50-50, something like that. And what I like about that is it really matches up the girls, the kids, with the caliber of wrestlers that they're going to be facing. Like a lot of those kids, if we put them in the varsity side, they've been 0-2 and probably want to learn a whole lot. By putting them in the JV side, they're matched up with close to what the potential of those kids are. And I thought varsity and JV, we wrestled really well. So
when you look at the varsity side, three third places, a 4th place, and a 6th place on the varsity. 3 girls made the semifinals, and unfortunately all fell in the semifinals, but 3 of those, or actually 4 girls made the semis, and 3 of the 4 ended up in 3rd, but Madalena Chuboteriano finished in 4th place, but Kendra Garcia, Jasmine Ybarra, and Kendall Tovar all came back after losing in the semifinals to pick up 3rd places for you as well, and Grace English finished in 6th place at 100 pounds. So
yeah, we'll start with Kendra there. She ended up losing to Marley Stremick in the semifinals. We had previously beat her down in Fargo, and we did a duel down there. Marley Stremick is a returning state placer 2 or 3 times. Girl we're capable of beating again. We kind of got behind late in the second period. I think we ended up losing 8-1, but we were right in that match. And then she came back to pin Veda Hoffman, I think, for 3rd and 4th, and she's been a several-time place winner also. So, I mean, she had a really good comeback. Jasmine ran into a buzzsaw in the semifinals with Aaliyah Collins. She's a defending state champion at 136. And actually, Jasmine wrestled her pretty tough. We end up defending a lot of things later on, but she's just so physically strong, and she ended up eventually pinning us. And then Jasmine had a great 3rd and 4th place match, took on Schwab from Lisbon, and she manhandled her, and she's a several-time state placer. We ended up taking her down twice, and I think we got her in armbar and pinned her, so it was a really nice showing by Jasmine. And then Kendall Kovar ended up losing in the semis, 142 to Webelin Knockland from Fargo. Lost 5-0. I thought Kendall wrestled really well. She started to put things together and not get scored on quite as much as she did, only losing 5-0. And then she came back and beat Hope Midlater for 3rd and 4th. And what nice thing about this match is the week before we got pinned by Hope Midlater from Lytton, and we turned the pages on her, and Kendall ended up pinning Hope for 3rd and 4th, so which was really good. Madalena ended up taking 4th place. She lost in the semifinals, but before she got to the semifinals in the quarters, she wrestled the third-seeded gal, Laura Schneider from Central Cass, but she was a returning place winner also. And then Madalena ran into Bristol Fike for 3rd and 4th from Harvey, and she's she's kind of a hammer on top, and she ended up getting an advantage of us and beating us for fourth. Then if we go down to Grace English, she ended up taking sixth place for us, and she lost to the same girl, Satram from Mayport. She lost in the first round to her, and then we worked all the way back into fifth and sixth, and we lost to her again there. So she only lost to the one girl, but lost to her twice. So the varsity side, those 5 girls end up placing, scoring 77 place to take 6. So real nice showing for the varsity side.
When you look at the tournament, we've talked about the boys being so banged up early on. How's the health overall for the girls?
You know, knock on wood, I know I was at the girls' basketball game last night, and Kyle Smith asked me how we fared with injuries, and we came out pretty good. I don't think we had any new injuries. We maybe had some bumps and bruises, and people really, look at that. I look at that as a win of not having any more injuries, and right now we are full strength. We did get a couple girls back last weekend. Kelsey Newman was out with a concussion for a while. She got her first 2 matches under her belt last weekend. But yeah, right now we are at full strength and sitting pretty good health-wise.
So when you look at the numbers, and it just help me out, I don't remember going back to last year on the L. Larson tournament for the girls. Did the girls wrestle in it last year?
Yeah, so if you remember Friday night, it was all duels on Friday night, and then it was the girls and boys tournament on Saturday, but Friday night the storm came in, and the teams that were here stayed here, and a few more made it up. I think Lisbon came up, and I think rugby came down, and there might have been a couple other ones, but nobody else could get here, so we wrestled with what we had. I think last year, at least for the girls, and maybe the boys, it was going to be a little over 200 girls, 200 boys. I think we ended at it with about 80 or 90 last year, but that was all on Saturday, but we knew this tournament was, if we had to wrestle 200 girls on 2 mats last year, we're probably going to be in a little bit of trouble. It's going to be a lot later than 7 o'clock that was this year. So
not really a fair assessment from last year to this year on the numbers.
No.
But it's going to probably continue to grow. I think teams, especially when you can use those 5 mats, that's a big bonus, I think, for teams, because they're like, okay, you can get in and out of there for a full day of wrestling, and
I was trying to make sure that the varsity side wasn't more than 16 people in there, because then you had a pigtail bracket, which slows everything up. You got to work it in. I think there was 1 or 2 that had that. And, I was talking to a lot of coaches, and Mark, whenever we get out of here, we get out of here. They don't really care. Just as long as mats are full, things are run smoothly, kids are getting matches. That's what they really care. So even if we got out of here at 10 o'clock, I don't think there have been anybody griping. And the thing is, we have such great workers. Miss Michelson gets a lot of good workers at the tables. Carmen Freeman can run the computer really well. And Carrington can run tournaments smoothly. Like I said, if you keep the mats full, that is the biggest thing. Sometimes you go to tournaments and there's 5 mats and there's only 2 or 3 matches going. That really slows things down. And I don't think there was a time that a mat was open for more than a couple minutes. I think there was a couple injuries for the girls and the boys that slowed it down, but that's going to happen from time to time. So, but it really went well. 255 girls in a little over 7 hours. Says a lot. Then we actually could have wrestled on that 4th mat for a while, where the boys, because they didn't have a first round duel over there, it could have sped it up even a little bit more. So
I think one thing when you look at Carrington, you mentioned a few of the people, but one other thing I think that helps running some of these varsity tournaments, you go back over the years and they still do it. Some of these youth tournaments, that is a zoo. These youth tournaments. I mean, there are kids running everywhere, and Carrington has run a lot of those tournaments.
Oh, yeah.
And you'll hear people make comments. They can't believe how well those things are run with kids that are literally running every direction. But so that definitely helps. And obviously when you get kids a little bit older, it's going to make it a little easier to make things smoother. So
well, and the other thing, I've been to some tournaments where they don't have quite as many adult workers on the outside, so they have some junior high kids and maybe some younger high school kids that maybe don't even understand the sport of wrestling that well, and it just doesn't run as smooth. And most of the people that you look out there were former wrestlers or parents, or I think Taylor was working for a while, former wrestler. They understand it, so they can relate to it and they can problem solve a lot. But and you have to pay attention when you're over there scoring. You can't look away. And they do a fabulous job. So
yeah, so kudos to everyone that helps run those tournaments. It takes an army of people to do it, and it's been a lot of compliments over the years, whether it's been the youth tournaments or sub-varsity or varsity, and Carrington's done a pretty good job.
And adding that 5th mat is huge. for the girls, we end up not doing a true 16-man wrestleback bracket. We end up doing, if you lost in the semifinals, you drop down to third and fourth. And then the best you could do is come back and take fifth in the wrestlebacks, and then we didn't do a seventh and eighth. It knocked out about 40 matches, which is roughly probably over an hour, hour and a half, because we weren't sure about the time. And if we did have that 283 kids, I was probably going to add another hour in there.
Yes.
And whatever, maybe we get out of here at 9 or 10, but we're just trying to shorten it up a little bit, and maybe next year we go to a true wrestlebacks for third and fourth. But so.
And started at 10 a.m. and just take the day off of school?
Well, I mean,
Perfect.
that's possible. That's possible. So, I mean, Mrs. Helm is, willing to work with things like that. She sees how big the tournament is and wrestling is in this town and the commitment that the fans and everybody has with it. So, I mean, that is something that maybe could be done. So, but, and it just seems like that's where the girls are kind of getting their own tournaments now, because to do the girls and the boys together, the girls is growing so much. Velva was on Friday night all by itself, and the boys did start that night. Go to South Border coming up here on Saturday, and that's just an all-girls tournament. So a lot of girls tournament has breaking away from the boys just because the numbers are so big. And even this year, Stanley has 8 or 9 kids. Williams County has 6 or 7 kids, 8 kids. I just think that number's going to grow. White Shield has 2 girls this year. I don't know if they've ever had boys wrestling before. They had 2 boys also. I just see the girls' number keep growing, and that's good because we need more Class B schools in there to grow that number. Most Class A schools do have their own wrestling team, except for Fargo. They have Fargo North, Fargo South, Fargo Davies all on one team.
Yeah.
West Fargo Cheyenne, and West Fargo Horace all on one team, which is unbelievable because they probably are picking from 4,000 girls, and I'm picking from 120. So.
Yeah, I kind of didn't really understand that. You got West Fargo United and the Fargo Stingers. You got 2 wrestling programs when you got a population of 165,000 people. So yeah,
and we got 2,000,
yeah,
right? So
exactly. Well, before we cut you loose here, Mark, coming up Thursday, the girls will travel to Lisbon, weather permitting, to wrestle the Broncos. And then Saturday, they will travel to Ashley, you said, in a South Border tournament, and that'll take you into the Christmas break. So what do you know about Lisbon girls?
They got about the same amount of girls that we do. I think they probably spread their girls over all 13 weights. We're probably going to be missing a few weights. They got several good girls. If you go with the tournament, they finished right behind us in the tournament. We had 77, they had 75. It's probably going to be pretty close. Problem is we're going to probably be giving up some points on some of the forfeits. That's really going to hurt us. But, we expect our kids to go out there and battle to the end, and hopefully we come up with a victory. So.
And then you look at the tournament down in Ashley on Saturday. Any idea on the amount of teams and athletes that'll be down there?
It's about the same. There's about 30 teams there. I just kind of looked before I came onto the air before there was about 150 girls already registered, but there were several teams that hadn't. There's probably going to be around 200 girls, probably about 50, 60 less than what we had. And that's before all the scratches. There's always sickness and injuries and things like that. So, yeah, it should be a pretty good tournament. Most of the Bismarck schools will be there, and, so it'll be a good tournament.
When you look at the program just, kind of getting started here in the last couple of years, and is there any type of thing you kind of look at trying to do to build more interest with younger kids, team building exercises, take them to Jamestown for a UJ women's duel or anything like that?
I haven't really looked into that, but those are all things that definitely can help. I know Holly English brought in a sports psychologist earlier to build some confidence and do some things with the girls, and they did with the boys and the girls. But one of the big team building thing is when we go on the road, we stay over at night a lot, and those girls really bond. It's amazing what the 7th graders, you would never know that one's a 7th grader, one's a senior, because they really look after each other and they really respect each other, and that seems to be like a big team building. But going to some of those duels is something that maybe look into that I think the girls would rather enjoy to see what that aspect looks like on the collegiate side. So
one thing that it's kind of intrigued me a little bit over the years. I look back, and I'm guessing you were the same way back when we were younger. Bus trips, whether it was to a basketball game or wrestling, duel or a football game or a baseball game or whatever you have it. To me, we had some of our funnest times with teammates on that bus trip to and from, and now you hear there's hardly any kids that even take the bus to and from anymore, or at least back anyway. And that kind of baffles me, because I just think there's good bonding time there with teammates.
In high school, I had over 200 matches, so I wrestled a lot from 7th grade on. And I honestly can't tell you too many matches, but I can tell you bus trips. I can say overnight things. I can remember lots of those things. I can only remember a few select matches. People are like, remember this and this match? I'm like, are you kidding me? No way. But a bus trip, somebody will bring up or something that happened, I can remember that. And I think that's where the memories are made. And like I said, it's just a fun thing. But you are right. There isn't very many kids, and I don't care what sport it is, that ride the bus home. I think it was 12, 13 years ago I used to coach the boys, and it seemed like most of the boys, and I kind of recommended and I kind of scolded them when they did ride home, because I want that bonding coming home, and most of them did. A lot of times if they were going to a family event, if we were out in New Salem, they're going to see relatives or something, okay, that's fine. But for the most part, I kind of encourage them to ride the bus home. And we get some do that ride the bus home every once in a while, even though their parents are there. But yeah, tides have turned a little bit with that. And it's kind of funny, because I go to a lot of games with for my daughter, volleyball and basketball, and sometimes the bus beats me home.
Yeah.
So it's not that they're getting home that much sooner.
My wife made comments in the last few years in track and or volleyball this year, and she said, hardly any kids even are on the bus on the way home, and I've known about that for years, though. It's just crazy, and I just think that's one of the things that's been, the kids might not agree, but I think if they saw it from our vantage point, or they had those experiences, I think they would probably go back and maybe do it. I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know.
I don't know. From 20 years ago to 30 years ago, things have changed. So I'm not sure, what it'll look like 20 years from now. Maybe kids will drive themselves to games. I don't know.
Yeah. All right, Coach. Well, thanks again for joining us here on the Coaches Show.
You're welcome.
We'll cut you loose here. Best of luck on Thursday night against Lisbon, and on Saturday down in Ashley.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. That's Mark Pazernik, the head girls wrestling coach. And with that, we'll send it back to the studio. We'll take a couple of minute timeout, and we'll return with more of the 2024 Coaches Show here on AM 1600 KDAK The Cardinal right after this.
There's no community like a Cenex community. That's why every Cenex store is proud to serve theirs by supporting local athletic teams, promoting the arts, and making sure each store is a place its neighbors can find what they need, catch up with their friends, and stay connected. It's also why